children of all ages. It's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And holy cow, boys and girls, the reveal on Friday from Games Workshop was absolutely insane. There was a bunch of really cool new models that were super pretty and I really liked. And obviously, I'm like the most interested in like Age of Sigmar and stuff like that. A lot of them Nurgle champions out there looked absolutely dope. But I think one of the biggest reveals, and of course, they always keep the 40k stuff right to the end because everybody knows that's what a lot of people are sitting around waiting for. That's obviously by far their most popular brand, and no shade to our Age of Sigmar or Old World or any of the rest of those groups out there fans. But at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest reveals that probably shook a lot of the Warhammer 40k fans out there was the reveal of the fact that the Space Marine, the main protagonist from the Space Marine games, and of course the hugely and insanely successful Space Marine 2 Lieutenant Titus, now a little elevated out there, is going to be making his proper return into the Warhammer 40k universe out there via the tabletop and a brand new narrative. So not only officially confirming him as completely and totally canon to the universe and giving us new models for him as well, but cementing his place inside of the overall Warhammer 40k narrative as a main protagonist out there. And honestly, from just a sheer marketing standpoint, this makes total sense. Space Marine 2 was by and far the most successful Warhammer game period out there, 40k or otherwise, boys and girls. The success was insane. The launch day was crazy. I mean, this is a game that I was excited for years. And although given I'm not the longest running Warhammer 40k fan, I've really only been into it for a few years, but as anybody knows that most nerds are, we delve deep and head first into things out there. And seeing that trailer for Space Marine, before I even actually had really even started to delve into Warhammer 40k, this was a game I was excited for because I looked across the video games and I wanted something where you could actually go in there and play as a Space Marine. And the original Space Marine was one of the only opportunities for it. We played the original out there all the way through before the second one came out, and we were there on launch day when it happened. So needless to say, your humble common nerd is a little excited for this, boys and girls, if you couldn't already have told, because this is one of them situations where making him a much bigger player shows not only the fact that this is Games Workshop rewarding the fans for what they give them and not just themselves going down their own personal path to do what they want and actually trying to make the fans happy with things. And considering all the changes I heard about that happened at Golden Demon and how much they were actually listening to the fans' response on things, it shows that at least someone inside of Games Workshop is listening to the fans, paying attention to what we enjoy and actually giving us what we want. And boys and girls, this is all a good sign for the future of 40k, despite some of the major missteps they've made over the last few years. So I, for one, am super excited about this because as you can see over from the headline from IGN.com, Games Workshop just promoted Titus from Space Marine 2 with a fancy new trailer that sets up the next narrative expansion for Warhammer 40,000. A star is born, and it is indeed. And Spiky Bitch, which is one of our normally favorite places to go over here for like Warhammer 40k news out there, did do a little bit of an article over it, but they covered it mostly in their video. And of course, we want to go over all the IGN stuff. So they do have the trailer in here as well. We'll probably watch a little bit of it out there, but I don't want this video to go too terribly long for you guys. So if you guys want to check out the full trailer, make sure you go over to the Games Workshop's YouTube channel and check it out because I think it's going to get you even more excited for all of this. And it's super, I am personally super stoked to see this kind of stuff. So we're going to check this article from IGN.com, getting all of the juicy details of exactly what this release shows us and some of the details of especially some of the awesome pictures of how incredible these new models look. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed our 2,300. We're sailing our way towards 24 on our journey to 100,000. I think we're sitting at like 2,390. So we're like literally 10 or 9 or 10 away from 2,400. And of course, I could not do that without every single one of you. So please hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and let us know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Did you really enjoy Space Marine 2? Are you one of the guys out there still playing it? Are you excited for the new updates? Are you excited for Space Marine 3? Are you excited to see Titus get his proper place inside of the Warhammer 40k overall narrative? Are you excited to see this, or do you think this is just Games Workshop trying to do a cash grab and they'll end up abandoning this story like they have so many others out there? Let us know what you think about it in the comment section down below because all opinions are welcome down below. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel, think about becoming a member. That would be really helpful. This is my full-time job, so I appreciate you guys out there. All right, from Wesley and Poole over at IGN.com. Lieutenant Titus from Space Marine 2 has become one of the most recognizable faces in all of Warhammer 40,000 following the enormous success of the video game. We've already seen Games Workshop double down on the Ultramarine hero with merch and an appearance in the Warhammer 40,000 episode of Amazon's animated anthology Secret Level, which I think all of us that watch Secret Level, I mean, I was sick as a dog when Secret Level launched, and I still went out of my way to watch just the Warhammer 40k section and put a mini little review out there on Twitter. And yeah, seeing Titus show up was awesome. And various cameos across the setting. But now things have leveled up, not just for Titus as a Space Marine, but his place in the ongoing Warhammer 40,000 narrative. This week, Games Workshop unveiled Captain Demetrius Titus, Master of the Watch, which means Titus has had a much-deserved promotion since the now canon events of Space Marine 2 and Secret Level. And that was always one of the questions kind of in the past, right? Games Workshop's kind of plays loose and fast with their canon a lot of the times. And so that was always the question with the video games. How much of this is actually canon to the narrative? How much is this actually just kind of like acceptable stuff? And we know how Games Workshop is. They'll kind of pull things that they're, they might deem non-canon at some point and then bring them back. And just when people think things might be non-canon anymore, they all of a sudden become canon. And so it's one of them situations where I kind of side with Luton on this. Basically, just consider everything canon until it's not, unless it's just your own personal headcanon. And I think there's certainly certain things that we all hope Games Workshop abandons and they never speak of them ever again in the future. But at those kind of situations where that's kind of how it all ends up going. So basically, you're safer off just assuming everything's still canon than that any of it's not canon anymore, unless Games Workshop in some of their material has specifically come out and said something along those lines, which that doesn't happen too often. So Titus is once again captain of the Ultramarine Second Company, a position he already held before he was taken into custody on suspicion of heresy by the Inquisition after the events of the first Space Marine game, which was complete and total nonsense and just another one of the reasons why we all hate Leandros. What does Titus's promotion mean for the Cerberus Arcani, the former captain of the Second Company and Master of the Watch we see in Space Marine 2? Let's be real here. He's probably dead. I guess they couldn't spare enough of them. Couldn't spare enough men. For Titus, the promotion comes with bigger and tougher responsibilities. He's been put in charge of defending the 500 worlds of Ultramar, the realm of the Space Marine poster boys, the Ultramarines. With Primarch Roberto Gilliman off gallivanting with his Indomitus Crusade, Titus is now in charge of keeping things safe and sound back home, where new Necron threats have emerged as they always do. And if you guys have been following along in the books with the Indomitus Crusade and kind of been trying to keep up with one of those things, that's something that Gilliman has made it very apparent in the books that is something he wants to do. He believes it was a mistake to ever allow civilian control over a lot of the Ultramar planets out there. He believes that's what led to a lot of the corruption and the fall. He believes that the Space Marines should have always ruled those planets because, especially with Gilliman and the kind of attributes that the Emperor put inside of him, he is meant for statehood. He is meant for statecraft, right? That's what he's good at. That's essentially his superpower. That's his specialty as being one of the Primarchs out there. And so coming from his perspective and coming from his line, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, honestly, look at the results. We've seen all of these human leaders inside of Warhammer 40k that a lot of them haven't been upstanding dudes, whether they can be corrupted by corruption or just their own typical narcissism and ego and pride that like you see in our own world all of the time. So it makes sense, and I understand why he's doing this. And I love the idea of Titus now getting in charge of this, because obviously Gilliman can't go out there. And as far as I know, the Lion and Gilliman, Gilliman might be aware. I'm not fully caught up on the narrative as to where things are right now. But as far as I know, Gilliman might not even be aware of the Lion's return yet, other than outside of rumors. And I know they haven't met yet. So Gilliman is essentially on his own trying to retake the galaxy and try to push back against all of the Chaos threats and the Xenos threats. Chaos kind of being one of the big ones right now. And so it's one of them situations where, and I love the idea of the Necrons getting introduced as kind of the next big bad, at least for Titus's campaign. And for his crusade to go up against the 500 worlds, there's a bunch of game stuff that's all coming with this. There's a brand new narrative campaign that you'll be able to play. So it looks really cool. It looks a lot of fun. And of course, there's plenty of new plastic crack models. They're going to hurt all of our bank accounts. Did I mention the memberships earlier? You can also leave super thanks on the videos if you'd like to see Common Nerd unbox one of these cool little things with Titus and all of the rest of his crew in there. Check out the super thanks. Those really do help out with all of that kind of stuff out there. But it's one of those situations where like this is obviously something that they do. This makes sense from a marketing perspective, and I think since he was so popular with the fans, that means Games Workshop is giving us what we want, and I'm totally good with that kind of stuff. And like I said, it'll be fascinating to see how he accomplishes getting back the 500 worlds, getting Gilliman's favor, doing all of this kind of stuff. I mean, it obviously shows The Gilliman has a lot of faith in Titus, and considering the Space Marine 2 events are canon now, it all completely and totally makes sense. So Games Workshop ships a new trailer below to hype up the narrative expansion, and features Titus front and center as he accepts his new job title and what he calls his impossible mission. He's at an eye-catching glow-up since we last saw him. He's a cool new model for his use in the Warhammer 40,000 tabletop game to boot. Titus is joined by his friends and his fans who well know the ancient Galadriel from Space Marine 2 and veteran Sergeant Metrius from Secret Level. He lives! It turns out he made it after all. So this is kind of one of the trailers. This is kind of one of the things. I didn't want to go over the whole thing. Here, let me put my headphone in here real quick so we can kind of listen to it together, but I didn't want to go through the whole thing because it is almost a 2.5 minute video, and the way I talk about things, boys and girls, this video is already probably long enough as is. If you guys want me to break down the whole trailer, leave me a comment in the section down below and I'll break down the entire trailer for you. We can list off and research names as to who everybody is and what this means for the setting and everything else, but for the most part I think a lot of you guys will know. So obviously really cool trailer.
Reborn demands the impossible.
And I love that too. He's like, demands the impossible. Why are you being so pessimistic, Titus? You can do this, buddy. Look at everything you just pulled off in Space Marine 2. Right, so this looks really cool. This is our first little reveal of Titus from the back right side. You've got him in this big woolly cloak out here. I absolutely love this. I love all of I love the look on this. I love the animal skin cloak that he's got going on all of this. They're ready for you, sir. This is basically his introduction. Epic scene here of him walking through the fire, of everybody else kneeling down because he's going to become the giant new commander, right? Protector of the watch and everything else. And I mean, just look, I mean, the animation is just so good for this stuff. You can tell they probably had guys from like the Secret Level team taking care of this. There it is. There's Titus's face. This is what caused the chat to explode. This is what caused the audience to explode while they were watching this live. I mean, this is really dope. This is exactly what you want to see. This is really cool. The giant the Space Marine reveal of Titus's face, like, you know, getting his new helmet on and everything else, just looking great, sounding awesome.
But only in death does duty end.
Amen, right? Only in death does duty end. I mean, what a line to throw in there. What a perfect, I couldn't have paused. Lord, thank the Lord in heaven for that one. I couldn't have unpaused that at a better time if I was trying to, boys and girls, because that's the way to do it. So this is him seated on his new throne out here with his new spot. I mean, and these are the models, right? Look at this. This is your kind of like zoom in on this. Get your epic little music in the background. Let's just get the up close look here. I mean, look at this. Let's just check this out here. Get the up close look. I mean, I love these new models. The detail on these look so good. It just looks awesome. I know the lighting's a little rough on this one. They'll have the little brighter lighting later as it goes on, but these models look incredible. The detail on these is amazing. Obviously, you're gonna get a bunch of really cool Necrons out there. I know I was watching Chapter Master Valrox. If you haven't already, go check out his stuff. He's really good. I like the guy a lot. Got great energy. It's a lot of fun to watch his videos. He's great for like sources and leaks and things like that, which, you know, we love covering leaks around here. So it's great for all of that kind of stuff out there. But there was one of the, I basically like essentially confirmed like some new Necron model or something like that with some of the box art on this, which he was just laughing at Games Workshop for like accidentally exposing that without any kind of official announcement. So, but this looks really cool. The models look incredible. I love the detail on them. For all of you guys that are hardcore painters out there, I'm so sorry how much hours you're gonna have to spend on and making these things look amazing. But I cannot wait to see your guys' results because I am always blown away. I do not expect I'll ever be able to, but I mean, look at some of these models. The detail on them looks fabulous out here. I mean, they really do. The attention to detail, obviously, a lot of these are going to be characters that we've seen from Space Marine 2. A lot of these people are coming through, obviously. Everybody else you've got here, I can't remember all their names for everybody. They've got them listed in here. We already went over some of them as well. But I mean, the models just look incredible, boys and girls. Just the attention to detail on these things are absolutely fabulous. And for something like this, it makes sense, right? This is a big deal. This is a big launch. They want these models to look fabulous. So it looks really, really good. This is the 500 Worlds campaign that they're talking about. So this thing came with a big bunch of books. It's going to have like a whole, like if you guys remember the one we just had not too long ago, I'm having a brain fart because it had Lionel Johnson. It had the lion in it and a few other things. The Arcs of Omen campaign, right? This is going to be something very similar to that. This one's got books inside of it. It's got some layout maps, a whole bunch of stuff. It's supposed to make it very easy for everybody to play and things like that out there. So it'll be really fascinating to see how all things we've got out here. So 500 Worlds of Titus is the name for the next major narrative expansion for Warhammer 40,000, according to the post on the Warhammer community. That includes a set of 4 books that will tell the story story of the Ultramarine reclamation and the embattled Vesper front, where Titus and the Ultramarine Second Company are locked in a desperate struggle against a Necron force rife with the Destroyer curse. Oh, yay! That's gonna be fun to deal with. This is a big moment for Titus, but also the Space Marine video game franchise, as it's evidence to the importance of the character to the Warhammer 40,000 universe and the seismic impact Space Marine 2 had on the setting. And I don't think that's undoubtable, right? This put more eyes on side of Warhammer 40k than anything they've done in probably the past decade, if not even longer than that. This was the #1 selling Warhammer 40k video game of all time, boys and girls. It wasn't even close. It had the highest peak player content out there of all of them. It was just absolutely insane. So of course there's a lot of good stuff going on here, and obviously Tim Willis, one of the development chiefs behind at Saber Interactive that helped develop this, was fascinated to see how much was exposed to this and how many new players he brought in based strictly on the questions that they had, right? And if you want to introduce people, if you want to bring them into the tabletop, well, what's better than to do that with when the characters they already know and love from the video games? So that's one of the reasons why Games Workshop is doing this, because this is what Tim said. I heard that lots of people now think that the Thousand Sons are the only Chaos faction because that's what we had in the game. And so people are like, oh, I guess Thousand Sons, they're Chaos. It's like, actually, no, it's not. They're actually just a small faction. But people are just like, that's the one I play against. And that's how it works. This is how you introduced normies to the overarching story universe, right? Like Henry Cavill and his deal with Amazon was what got me solidified into spending the time required to start to understand and scratch the surface of the Warhammer 40k, but it lit a passion inside of me because I trust Henry Cavill. The Space Marine 2 game also lit a passion inside of a lot of normies, inside of a lot of casuals, a lot of people who maybe not have known anything about Warhammer 40k, as well as satisfying the itch for a lot of the hardcore fans out there. This is what you want an adaptation to do. This is what One Piece did for that, and the live action One Piece over on Netflix did for a lot of other people out there. I never even bothered scratching the surface of that well over 1,000 episode anime until I fell in love with the show. Right now I'm like on episode 800. Games like Space Marine 2 can do the exact same thing for Warhammer 40k if done right. And Space Marine 2 was extremely well done right, and has brought a whole new genre of people into the game, into the franchise, which you've got a whole new world. I am so excited for all of you new folks out there. You are in for a treat of an insane, wild ride out there. So I love this. So it's going to have people asking more questions. It's only going to want to expand. It's only going to want to make them expand even more factions in Space Marine 3, which we already know is in works, boys and girls. People have assumptions about Warhammer 40,000 universe that are not correct, like Thousand Sons being the only Chaos faction. That's kind of humorous. And like, oh, Space Marines are only blue. That has also been quite humorous, to be honest, which is good for us. Hey, it means that what normies know about Warhammer 40k is because of your game. And that's a good thing, especially when it was done so well and so very well representation, so very well representative of the source material, which Space Marine was. One of the big questions going into the already confirmed Space Marine 3 is whether Saber will venture beyond the Ultramarines and the Thousand Sons in terms of the next campaign. The story seems to set up in addition to the Necrons, which at this point probably won't come as much as a surprise for Space Marine 3. But could other Space Marine chapters also appear? Perhaps other Chaos factions? We asked Willis of Space Marine 3, but he remained tight-lipped, which of course makes total sense. You don't want to spoil things, you don't want to give too much away, and obviously you don't want to promise things that might end up down the road not end up working out in the development process. That's one of the reasons why they keep their mouths shut about this stuff, because if they promise you something or tell you, hey, you know, we're going to have the Dark Angels in it, well, me as being a Dark Angels fan out there, I would be really upset. Well, you promised me I was going to get Dark Angels in Space Marine 3, and now they're not there. I'm not playing the game. I would still play the game, but there's going to be some fans out there that aren't going to do that kind of thing, which is why you don't want to let anybody know about your process until it's done out there. But now we've got what's going on out. But now Titus is firmly back in the fold. We have to wonder, what does the overly suspicious Chaplain Leandros think? Screw Leandros. The guy's a douchebag. He's a psychopath. And honestly, Chaplain is probably the best role for him, but at the end of the day, I don't like the guy, and that's okay, because that's the thing. I think that's exactly what the game intended to do. So screw Leandros. That guy's a douchebag. He spent pretty much the entire Space Marine 2 threatening to end poor Titus at the first sight of corruption, and even after Titus's heroics, a combination from Chapter Marnius, Calgar, shout out to Calgar, and some think the word of encouragement from the Emperor himself. Leandros remains unconvinced. If Titus manages to complete the impossible task and defend the 500 worlds, will he finally win us over? Nope. All of this probably feeds into Space Marine 3 in some way. Assuming Space Marine 3 picks up after the events of 500 worlds, we may well see Titus lead armies into battle rather than a single squad. And I, for one, think that's a wonderful idea. I was thinking maybe kind of at the beginning that maybe some of Space Marine 3 would kind of incorporate some of the Battle of the 500 Worlds. I think that would be a lot of fun. But if the idea with the narrative campaign out there is to have all that taken care of and have all that set up with everybody out there playing, you know, that would kind of make sense that you're just going to continue on from that one. But that would be really cool. I mean, and Titus, if you're going to continue on playing as Titus, right, you're not going to have something happen to where, like, he's like, you're not going to have him, like, you're not only going to switch the mode of the game and now have it be some tacticus game out there where he just sits back and is the commander of giant armies. You're just not going to do something like that. You know, you're going to have a reason to get him into the nitty gritty. You're going to have a reason to get him on the ground level for stuff like that and see what happens, because otherwise nobody's going to really want to play the game as much, because that's the guy everybody knows out there. But at the end of the day, it's one of them situations where this is awesome, right? This just means that Titus is not going anywhere. And it once again just confirms that, yes, your voice does make a difference. Your dollars, where you spend them, makes a difference when it comes to any of these major corporations, whether it be Games Workshop, Disney, Marvel, DC, or otherwise, right? What you feed is what grows. And Space Marine 2 was one of the things that has gotten fed more by Warhammer fans and normies out there than anything Games Workshop has seen in decades, arguably, boys and girls. And the success just shows you that there is a hunger for good quality action games set in the grim, dark universe out there. And when you do that and not try to chase some modern audience with a bunch of race swaps and gender swaps and garbage storytelling that's just trying to push an agenda, you get amazing success. And that's exactly what Space Marine 2 gave us. And Games Workshop, at least at some level, absolutely understands that and is giving us more of what we want. Would I love to see some other factions explored in the future and maybe see a hero of the Dark Angels be elevated to the same status that Captain Titus is? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, give me a good video game where I get to play as a giant hulking Space Marine out there, stomping Xeno scum and purging heretics from the galaxy. Because at the end of the day, that's what Warhammer 40k is all about. And when you drift too far from that core mechanic out there, you end up with disastrous dumpster fires. Fortunately enough for everyone at Saber Interactive and all of the Warhammer 40k fans globally, that is not what happened with Space Marine 2, and now they are getting the just rewards that they have so well earned. We are now getting a proper Captain Titus inside of the Space Marine, inside of the Warhammer 40k universe, and is a major player in the narrative campaign going forward. And I, for one, cannot wait to read some Black Library books where Captain Titus shows up, and especially some interactions with Gilliman, because that's one of the things you have to do to expand upon this stuff, and it's just more opportunities to bring even more new fans into the universe. But you'll have them buying your models now, have them buying your books, have them invested in the universe, because this is what you want to do. This is how you do adaptations well. This is how you bring new fans in, and Space Marines 2's success is far from over, and Captain Titus is clearly not going anywhere. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because we are in for one hell of a ride with Captain Titus, the new champion of Ultramar and recapturer of the 500 worlds. Because, sir, after all the hell you've gone through, it is very well deserved. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I know, wild concept, right? They've listened to the fans, and we've made them very successful, because at the end of the day, we decide what succeeds and what fails, and not some modern audience. So Games Workshop, keep listening to the fans, and we'll make sure you don't end up like Ubisoft. A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.